you look at the impact of pollution on the Indian economy, it is far more consequential than any impact of any tariffs that have been put on India so far. If you look at the annual cost to India's GDP of the level of pollution that you have, and it's not just the effect on economic activity, but it's also the loss in lives. I mean, the numbers are really large. Based on a World Bank study that was done, I think it was published in 22, about 1.7 million lives are lost every year in India because of pollution. That's 18% of the deaths in India.
India walked in expecting a standing ovation post a victory lap, emphasizing fastest growing economy, digital superpower, the global bright spot. But the tone shifted and very quickly. We had Ashwini Vaishnaw, the government's architect, with the swagger. And on the other side, Gita Gopinath, the IMF's realist with the receipts. And I think we all saw Vaishnav's confidence give way to attention. When she hit India where it hurts the most, not the economy, but something far more critical, the air we breathe. She voiced a line that silenced the room. Pollution is a bigger threat to India than tariffs, end quote. I believe hitting a nerve. We obsess over trade wars. We obsess over oil prices. But what the IMF is saying is that the real enemy is omnipresent right outside our windows. She wasn't trying to be an environmental activist because the argument wasn't environmental. It was actually operational. So if you want global supply chains to shift to India, executives need to know one thing. Can my people actually live there? 1.7 million lives lost a year. 18% of all deaths? Wow. That's not a tragedy, that's a massive economic cost. It scares away capital faster than bad tax laws, trust me. But before, of course, we further explore the Davos incident, this is what I'd like to say to you. We, of course, wanted to request that you would please like, share and subscribe and hype that particular button, as it will help us spread the word regarding our reporting. Because we believe we track stories that carry consequences. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of them. Gopinath extended the argument beyond the air. On land acquisition, she described the process as more than complicated. On judicial delays, she identified a choke point that compounds over time. On labor reform, she observed that incremental changes are insufficient for economies seeking to absorb large-scale manufacturing shifts. Her point was structural. Livability, she argued, shapes growth long before policy announcements do. There is precedent for this. And here is what I have to share with you. It's scary. In Sofia, Bulgaria, one of Europe's most polluted capitals, a 2022 study found that over 60% of highly skilled workers factor air quality into where they choose to work. And nearly 2/3 said they would consider leaving the country altogether for cleaner air. And of course, capital investment, when it listens to something like that, it kind of shies away from long-term commitments. The same logic, she suggested, applies at scale. One statistic emphasized her concern. Since the 1980s, only about 30% of India's growth has come from labor expansion. Yeah. The economy has grown. Employment creation has lagged. Yeah. And her conclusion is this: becoming one of the world's largest economies is largely based on arithmetic. Ensuring broad prosperity is not. Vaishnav's response, of course, was not to contest the diagnosis. No. It reframed the timeline. When asked whether India could become a top 3 global economy, he adjusted the premise. The question, he said, is not if, but when. His confidence rested on 4 pillars. Infrastructure investment is already underway. Financial inclusion with over 540 million bank accounts opened. Manufacturing expansion and policy simplification. He pointed to sustained real growth of 6 to 8% over the next several years, to poverty reduction at historic scale, and to political stability as a magnet for long-term capital. He also turned the discussion on risk outward. Many advanced economies, he noted, are carrying debt. Yes, we know who he's talking about. Burdens that constrain future choices. India, by contrast, is entering its growth phase with relative fiscal room. And of course, now, as always, for the front page take. So where does that leave us? The narrative war ended in a very fascinating truce. On AI, Vaishnaw sees a sovereign stack: chips, models, energy. He sees India owning the tech. Gopinath sees the risk: AI devouring our call centers and coding jobs. But the conclusion is unanimous. India is going to be a giant. Yes, that part is established. The top 3 spot is definitely waiting for us. But the terms and conditions have changed. The IMF's message: India has growth, it has digital stack. The next phase is execution. Cleaner air, faster codes, relevant skills at scale. If those pieces fall into place, India does not simply become a large economy. No, it becomes a durable one, which is far more important. Capital is already positioning for the upside. But alongside market indices, investors are tracking a very different set of parameters: air quality, livability, institutional efficiency. Because in the next phase of global competition, prosperity will be measured by more than output alone. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been Front Page by the AIM Network. Think AI, think India, and you know what? Think AIM.